start recording. welcome to the show. I'm Nigel Main. If this is your first time, welcome. I always wonder right at the beginning of doing a show that what's the best way to start? Some people say, don't say welcome, don't say anything, just go straight for it and just say, and this is what we're going to talk about. And then, I don't know, 5 minutes later, and my name's Nigel Main, blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. So I'm honestly never quite sure. I also had a thought that maybe I should do something along the lines of free form at the beginning, which this is, by the way, it's a bit of free form. But you can kind of fall into a trap of rambling. So I don't want to do that. So what I am going to do, I'm going to kick off. Not literally, but I'm going to start. And we want to talk about marketing, big issue. So, but marketing for B2Bs is unremarkable. Right? It's been unremarkable for decades. And what seems to be remarkable is when you take a step back and you observe B2B marketing itself and realise they're doing it wrong. Yeah, they're not doing it properly. And I suppose my description is they're living in this bubble and telling everybody else that they're wrong. When in fact, B2B marketers haven't even asked their own CEOs how he or she actually buys and goes through that process. And that naturally affects everything in the business from that point forward. So this is the GTM reset. And this is show number 8. And keeping in mind what I just said, today's subject is about annual recurring revenue. And the fact that it's the only metric really that matters. Nothing else matters. And I think that, when you look at this ARR, everyone loves talking about it. Everyone wants sales at a certain rate. I mean, in fact, I think we all need sales at a certain rate anyway. And once you've got these deals, you want to keep hold of the revenue. Of course you do. And and that's why you employ a load of customer success directors. But really, for me, the giveaway, you see where I'm going to lead with this, the giveaway is the description itself, ARR, annual recurring revenue. You want ARR, and you want to keep ARR, but every single thing you're doing to win it, every bit of prospecting, every bit of marketing, is being measured on a daily, weekly or monthly basis. So that kind of activity is like annual on the way out, but daily on the way in. And the two don't match up. And they've never matched up. So really, everything most businesses do today is based on like generating something all the time. So you've got demand generation, you've got lead generation, sales generation, pipeline generation. So the language alone tells you where the focus is. And all of it compounds I would say, the thinking that selling and marketing are simply just-in-time exercises. That's something that needs to be done immediately and something that's measured this week, even though every B2B has got lead time and every CEO knows it. And no one wants to hear that a decision has been postponed. And when it is, somehow it becomes the salesperson's fault, which is kind of mad, really. And so you've got to look at you look at the way it is. And so the way that businesses have been built, that really today, that they have been forced by the MarTech industry and their advocates, your marketing teams, to use all the technologies that the consumer industry uses. And that's kind of predominantly like marketing automation. So you've got your Eloqua, Pardot, Marketo, HubSpot, the whole shooting match, really. But the whole machine, but you could say, like, underneath it, this kind of consumer grade software, the same teams are applying the only way to describe it is like 1950s strategies like cold calling and engaging one prospect at a time. I mean, two completely different eras, but kind of stitched together. And of course, everyone looks at it and wants to present it as some kind of so coherent strategy. But my experience is, well, there's a lot of factors that seem to be working against businesses today. Everyone wants a diary full of appointments, but it's rarely the case. And the appointments that do exist, unfortunately, are invariably poor quality because the BDR was desperate, not the prospect. So that's not a sales problem. That's a structural problem. I mean, we, in show 6, or not last one, the one before, we showed that one BDR has to make 300 calls a week to find one kind of mildly interested person. And kind of working in a realistic pool, I would say, of 1,600 companies, if you've got a 10,000 number TAM, it would take them 33 years to ring them up. So when someone says, the CEO says, we need more appointments this week, they're asking a system that was never built to deliver them. You've kind of got to look at the rhythm of it, the process of it. The cycle of B2B is based on a week, month, quarter, and then repeat. Marketing concentrates on this micro activity, single posts, as in social media posts, asking staff to share their posts on their personal profiles, single cold calls, all of it trying to find that needle in a haystack prospect. Who's going to be ready to buy this week or Friday? And you compare that to how we, the buyers, actually buy. And a serious business works in like 10s, 5s and 1s, 10-year mission, 5-year strategy, 3 years to play out the tactics, and the current year for ops. So you've got to tell me how does any kind of B2B marketing activity run on a weekly, I don't like the word, but cadence, if you call it cadence. How can it possibly align with that? And it can't. It just can't. It doesn't. And that's actually the standard behaviour we've all accepted. So if you think about your new business prospect, the one who signed up last quarter, the one who became annual recurring revenue on your dashboard, they didn't start looking when they signed up. They started looking, a year ago? Longer? 2 years ago? And that's the point. They were quietly watching. They're looking at reading and learning and comparing, while your marketing team was busy kind of running this week's campaign or chasing this month's MQLs. So the annual recurring revenue you booked this quarter was earned by exposure, to kind of follow this bit, earned by exposure that happened 12 months or so ago. And the annual recurring revenue you're going to book next year is being earned, or not earned, right now. It's by the exposure you're choosing to create right now or not create. So marketing people won't step out of the cycle. And I think CEOs are afraid of making the wrong decisions. But, I mean, business isn't so good. It never is really. But there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. Nothing's changed. It's the same plan, different week. So the metric that everyone says matters, annual recurring revenue, Yeah, the one that's printed on every every investor deck, and the ones almost like every board meeting opens with, is being chased by activity that has no relationship to it whatsoever. And that's the gap. Okay? That's I suppose the word is like the show. And once you see it, once you understand it, you can't unsee it. And so we're looking at this. I mean, behaviour, looking at behaviour is identical, but the measurement's broken. So let me ask you one thing. Let's kind of talk about analogies. So if you buy a car, what do you actually do? You look, you think, talk to your partner, go to the showroom, test drive. You decide on finance if that's what you're going to do. Go away, think about it a bit more. And maybe you buy something. So nobody walks into some car showroom on a Monday morning and signs a finance agreement before lunch. And nobody expects them to either. The car salesperson doesn't ring you up and say, actually, I noticed you came into the showroom the other day and you sat in the seat for 11 and a half minutes. Can we book a 15-minute chat to discuss your next steps? You just wouldn't. Yeah. So why does it look any better for like high value B2B sales, SaaS sales, tech sales, whatever? There's no point about how many prospects, or rather there's no question about how many prospects your salespeople can talk to. The bottleneck isn't there. The only way to close more deals is if your prospects have already done their thinking, that they've thought about it, processed it, learned about it, before you get to speak to them. And that's the warm-up. Yeah? You basically want to get them prepped up in advance. You want to be teaching your prospects how to buy from you and why to buy from you. Teach them. Don't sell to them. You don't need to. And once B2Bs grasp that, the entire sequence kind of inverts, and marketing stops being like a campaign. It becomes a curriculum. And this basically leads straight into your understanding why prospects do what they do and why they don't. You know, why do prospects buy from us? Or from anyone for that matter. It's difficult. And also, no is a decision. And no, when they say no, that happens when they're not fully conversant about the options. Right? They didn't say no to your product. They said no because no one taught them how it would deliver an ROI. They couldn't see it. So they default to the safest answer, which is stay where they are. So the deal you lost wasn't lost on price. It was lost months and months earlier in the absence of teaching. Simple as that. So you compare these two kind of species, if you want to call it like that. The objective of a B2C, a consumer-related sale, is being clear about it, self-gratification and the fulfillment of desire. New shoes, new holiday, phone upgrade, and so on. But the objective of a B2B sale is fundamentally different. It's to solve a problem and to achieve a return on investment. They're not the same animal, they're different, behave different ways. And so they shouldn't be measured the same way. It makes sense, yeah? But I would say we haven't been paying attention because we're being told what to do by the people who are guessing and basing it all on B2C statistics. And we covered this in fair old detail last week's show. I mean, even ChatGPT, when I pushed it and said, come on, where's the stats? It had to admit that there are no hard and fast facts on specific B2B statistics, which is behind what most marketers are going on about and repeating. Do you watch how this kind of plays out? Your month one campaign starts, and the advert says to the prospect, "We solve your problem." And the prospect looks at it and says, "Not relevant. I haven't got a problem." End of conversation. And then end of campaign. So then fast forward later, I don't know, months later, whenever, it doesn't really matter. That same prospect has now got a problem. So where's the vendor? Off the radar. Long gone. No deal. Never. So and because of that, the vendor goes back and reverts to AI scrape and spam, sending out hundreds or thousands of emails, automated dialing, thinking that they're doing this all at scale, only to cheese off and upset a load of CEOs. When all they had to do, which is what we do, which is just stay visible. Just keep visible. The lead time can be months, so what? It can be years. It doesn't matter. But salespeople are expected to seek out and sell, I don't know, kind of compressing that buyer's decision-making process into this quarter's pipeline. We know that. But the buyer's not compressing anything. I mean, the buyer's got what, like 10-year mission, 5-year strategy, 3 years to play it out. Ops for now. But the vendor's big problem is they want to find buyers at the magical intersection. I'll show a diagram in a second. Intersection of like a researched market, and now they're waiting to. They've done the market. Now they want to look and find a supplier. But by the time the buyer gets to that kind of intersection, they already know what they're going to buy from. They know who they like, because it was the vendor they were learning from all along. I mean, if you look at this, let's pause that a second. If you look at this, you look at this diagram, and for those that are listening to this on a podcast, because I'll come on to that in a second, but we've got a diagram here which shows. On the left, we've got a triangle, and we've got mission is 10 years, strategy 5, tactics 3, ops of 1, and there's a diagonal line that is that intersection between learning and buying, and that's what all BDRs are trying to do and trying to find. That's why their success rate's 300 to 1, because it's a needle in a haystack. It's always been the same. So, you know, the whole point of this is that the problem exists, and no one knows until now, but no one knows what to do with it. So 2 things in life which we know about, yeah. We absolutely know about pain. And we also are aware of future pain. So we want to avoid both of them. So when we're buying, we don't always understand the consequences of not buying. And you could say, like, a good seller would build out the problem and go, if you don't do this, then that'll happen. And if you don't do that, this will happen. You know where it goes. If you take it to the nth degree, not only have you lost your house, your business, your family, your kids, you're dead. Yeah, metaphorically, of course. You know, for the want of a nail, the ship was sunk. I heard a close. You know, you see that you watch these sales related things, and this guy was saying, "Listen, so this is how you handle the objection." You say, "So how can I communicate to you that you might be making a mistake without you getting upset with me?" And supposedly, fair play, it supposedly triggers down. It probably does, but the question isn't the closing technique. Yeah. The real question is the one we've got to ask ourselves, you know, at the end of the day, and say, well, okay, before I do anything, who am I? What am I doing? Are we conformists, or are we rule breakers? Because conformists keep running the campaigns to people who aren't ready, on cycles and the processes that the buyer doesn't recognise. And the rule breakers, well, do something different. Got to teach continuously at scale and let the buyers come to them in the buyer's time, not the vendor's time. And that's key, absolutely key. And that's why, you got to look at this, it's, when we compare the two, consumers and B2Bs, even social media is not being used in the same way as consumers do. I touched on it earlier, B2B say you go and ask colleagues to repost content so they can hopefully increase distribution. Like tapping on someone's shoulder and saying, oh, can you share this on your profile? And so, at the end of the day, we're treating every kind of supposed active mechanism as something that's got to be triggered manually. I mean, it's nuts. Which kind of goes against the whole point of an automated, always-on platform, and we've turned it into like a tap, a shoulder tapping exercise. I mean, it's tiring. It doesn't scale, yeah? And people resent it. Different teams resent it. So if you go back a bit, let's go back a bit, because you can fix this without, or rather. You can't. So I've mentioned this before in different shows. You can't fix something, and you're not. In fact, you're not actually compelled to fix something unless you know how you got into the problem in the first place. Because sometimes you might think, well, is it really a big problem? I mean, it's just that some people think, well, it's just how it is. But if you go back, if we all go kind of back down memory lane, back into the 80s and 90s, businesses pretty much only had mail shots, as in posted mail shots. And they would try it once, twice in a year. And if it didn't work, they stopped until something new came along. Or someone had a different idea, something like that. And then early 2000s, give or take. Constant campaigns, they were always different. And CMOs or market leads in B2Bs were told to keep being creative, which to everybody that made sense. So different every time, different theme, different headline, different colour, different angles and so on. But the bottom line is, here's the thing. Being creative isn't the same as being repetitive. And in B2B, repetition is what works. That's why no one notices you. You've been chasing creativity when you, me, we all should have been chasing consistency. I mean, it's fact. Two lines. Then we'll move on, because if you take nothing else away from this bit, take these. Consumer repetition equals new buyers. B2B repetition equals learning. They're not the same thing. Consumer hears the jingle, again and again. But the buyer enters into a kind of funnel, right? The B2B prospect sees you 10 times and starts to learn. After seeing you 20 times, they start to trust you. After 30, give or take, they'll email a colleague and say, have a look at these guys. That's the model. It's got nothing to do with virality or sharing or engagement rate on a dashboard that your CMO shows you on a second Tuesday every month. Nothing. And the bottom line is we absolutely know that sales is a numbers game. We've always known it. Everyone knows it. But the problem is B2Bs aren't working with the largest number. And it's certainly not working with the largest data set. So, I mean, the bottom line is we've all cold called one at a time. We've all done that. We know marketing on LinkedIn, well, to all intents and purposes, is just an extension of Google pay-per-click, which supposedly, come on to that, achieves minimal success. So it's not much better than website forms with, I don't know, demand gen, lead gen pages, all firing into automation lead scoring engines, reverse IP lookup. And I said it before, I say it again, the whole reverse IP lookup, data lake, individual mapping is a pretty bad way of selling. And if it tells you a company visited your site, it doesn't tell you if they're interested or not. And then you get your BDR to ring up the switchboard or whoever is the gatekeeper, and they can hopefully guess and find out who was actually looking. It was madness. But the perception, the problem, and this is where CEOs got to be honest with yourselves, with ourselves. The perception is that there's no other way. So businesses sit there hoping for some kind of viral post, hoping that the next one kicks off. And the expectation is that you can have what consumers have. So, massive websites, like, I don't know, like millions of people go to Amazon. And the thing that's being pushed, like the exposure of celebrity, I suppose the possibility, the hope that something will become an overnight success. You look at like AGT, America's Got Talent, yeah, or in the UK we've got Britain's Got Talent. So everything, the whole media process says you can get popularity instantly. But when it comes to B2Bs, there's nothing. There's no perception that could even be a thing. We don't advertise on television because it costs too much. And our marketers don't even try to get expansive, large-scale exposure by any other means. And my opinion is it's because of this inherent lack of entrepreneurial creativity in B2B marketing that a sales business, if that's how you have to sell, it's got no option but to keep cold calling and maintaining this kind of one-to-one growth strategy. No one is exploiting any other option. And the maddening part is all we need to do is what we're suggesting. And it costs pennies. I mean, pennies. And if you look at this, yeah. So this is where we're kind of looking at some of the sales stages. So I mentioned about last week's show, we covered a 300 to 1 cold call ratio. In show 6, it was like the maths were like 33 years that a BDR could realistically call through 1,600 people. Why do I say 1,600 people? Let me just pause this. Sometimes you can do your slides and you think, oh yeah, it's all sussed, got it all sorted. I just want to show you one slide which I'm sure I left and put in the very back because I wasn't going to use it. I'm sure I didn't delete it. Please say I didn't delete it. Where are you? Bear with me. It's the Everett Rogers technology curve. And I did put it in, but I was going to use it later. Fancy that. Let me just show it now. So this technology curve. And what we've got here, I'll let you see it properly there. You can see on the left, it shows your innovators and early adopters. Innovators 2.5%, early adopters 13.5%. That means they are your excitable prospects. They are the enthusiasts, the visionaries, and they are the high profit opportunities that you can rely on. And we in tech sales, as you know, we've been doing this and talking about this for decades. We've always known this. So the point here is that where do we get the 1,600 from? If you've got a 10,000 name database, which equates to your total addressable market, that 16% is 1,600 businesses. They are the active pool, and that's why it takes 33 years to ring them. They're in because it's 300 to 1, right? You never do it. So even with 16, I think you said something like 16 BDRs, you'd be spending over like £1 million just to feed 2 salespeople with appointments. Because not everyone they speak to are going to want an appointment. They might be interested, but they might go for an appointment. So £1 million to replicate badly what the broadcast model is doing effortlessly. Because broadcasters have always understood the whole thing about reach. So frequency, reach, of course, you've got the repetition. They figured this out decades ago. But B2Bs just didn't join up the numbers. So, when someone says to you, social media doesn't work really for B2Bs, what they mean is we try to use it like consumers and it didn't work. Of course it didn't. So the problem it's not the platform. Yeah, the platform's not the problem. The plan was a real B2B repetition plan looks completely different. So it's not like daily posts, all different, pleading for a like or whatever. It's a published, I suppose, rhythm again. It's just week in, week out, the same, where the same total addressable market sees you and they hear from you and they learn from you every week without anybody on your team having to beg a colleague to share anything. Just becomes it just becomes a nonsensical cycle. And I think you've got to look at it. You've got to look at it. And you look at the rhythm, the whole process. You are to control it. And it's got to be consistent day in, day out. And you stop measuring it just on a Tuesday afternoon. Because that just does not work. So if you look at the sales stages, let me just go back to, if you look at these sales stages, I'm just going to get right back to these sales stages. So one, two. So there are a lot of phases, lots of stages we've got to go through. We talk about product. You know them already. So the facts are why you need to change. The fact is going to be you've got to change the way you're looking at stuff. So it's not the impressions versus the contacts or anything like that. It's the engagement, the reactions and and the comments. And that's where the signal, we call it the signal. That's where the signal is. Yeah. And we need to understand what the impressions are from social media or views, but without that number, you can't complete the equation. So you need both ends of the scale. And what I mean by that is when you're putting stuff out on YouTube or on LinkedIn or wherever, they're going to measure impressions and views. But your analytics are measuring how many people clicked. That's the end of it. That's the end of that process. So without you can't complete the equation. So you need both ends, the volume at the top and the engagement that comes out at the bottom. So one measurement without the other doesn't tell you anything. So if you got a pen, you could even write this down, but you can take this, you can copy this and so on. But if we're looking at this, you've got your contacts, then you've got your impressions, you've got reactions, then comments, and then downloads. So they're not all necessarily collected in terms of distribution, but the trick is, that's the point. You've got to understand that they're not linearly connected, because you might get a reaction this week from someone that saw something, I don't know, 6 weeks ago. you might get a comment today from someone who downloaded a PDF in, I don't know, back in March. So the numbers are not going to neatly line up inside the same week because the buyer isn't behaving inside that same week, which is why marketing dashboards, most of them, will lie to you. They report week on week when the buying cycle is year on year. You follow? So, if you look at kind of our statistics, and it gets mad. You look at the ours versus typical. Why is it different? Well, it's different because we're applying repetition. We've got a weekly live show like this, so I'll do this once a week. From this live show, we process a static video which is posted on YouTube of the show. Yeah, that's then processed into multiple 10-minute clips for YouTube and LinkedIn. And the additional links that are in there have all got their own UTM codes. So we know exactly which assets are driving which downloads. In addition, the full video gets processed into multiple shorts, which are, I don't know, between 1 and 3 minutes long, give or take. This audio, which I had mentioned earlier, gets also processed into a podcast on Buzzsprout. And then that gets distributed to 12 different RSS podcasts, which includes like Apple and Spotify and so on, so which you've probably gathered. So, excuse me. So I just want to say that again, right? Because this is really, really important. One live show, 1 hour of recording, 5, 6, 10-minute clips, 25 to 30 shorts, a podcast to 12 platforms, and that's from a very low number of connections. Okay, so I'm building a picture here. So that singular hour produces. So we do that 4 times a month. That's those 4 hours collectively generate 30,000 views a month. It's one person. It's not because I've got a load of contacts. It's because YouTube's algorithm multiplies the exposure on my behalf because that's what it does. So you have to think about that. I mean, really, really think about that, because you compare that to what your team is manually asking colleagues to share and post. Yeah, I know it's breathtaking. Yeah, we're talking B2B here. So some proof points, yeah? So in 6 weeks of putting out open access PDFs on the website, no paid media, no LinkedIn ads, no Google ads, nothing, no retargeting, no gating. Yeah. We got like it was 600, it's like 800 downloads. And in 1 week, we got 210. That's not a marketing campaign. That's just compounding exposure. You've got to get this. So the PDFs introduce the live show introduces the podcast introduces the shorts introduce the website, and somebody listens to it on a Tuesday and downloads PDF. It's brilliant. It's perfection. And on Friday, someone watches a clip and books a meeting 3 weeks later. And none of it's captured by a single marketing qualified lead form. And that's the point. So you looking at these figures here, and I know that I need to put my glasses on for this. So we've got shows 807 downloads. It shows that we've got on my own channel, Nigel main channel, 9,000 views in 28 days on our, I think, yeah, that's the overview there. 7,300 on Sales Exchange. 3,000 on GTM Reset channel, which started on the 19th of April. And then we've got LinkedIn, 9,200. And our engagement rate on LinkedIn it's 5.9%. The average is 1. So you look at that combined, we've got 40 hours of watch time. People listening to what I'm saying. And 32,000 people seeing what I'm doing. It is breathtaking. And this is what's not happening in B2B. You know, and if you look at this, you know, you look at what all the statistics in the world tell us is so basic. The more we let people know what we're doing, and the more businesses that know what we're doing, the more we attract. It's not a new concept. This guy here, Dale Carnegie, back in the 1930s, wrote a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And it was simple then. The more you tell your story to, people you tell your story to, the more you sell. There was a process then, and there's a process now. Both require effort, of course they do. But today, I mean, it uses different technology. But the objective is exactly the same. Sell more at a cost to make sense. And that's it. That's the whole game. It's job done. So if you compare what you're doing and how much exposure you're actually getting, we both know that appointments come from persistent exposure. But as B2Bs, I would say we've been completely ineffective at it, not because the tools don't exist, but because the tools aren't known by the people we've employed to carry out this work. Yeah? And by that I'm talking about people that have been trained on lead gen forms and email cadences and sequence platforms. They've just never been trained on broadcasting. So you look at the metrics. The average, you know, the whole thing about the average annual recurring revenue full-time employee, FTE, in most UK SaaS contexts is about 80, 90 grand. It's going down, unfortunately, per head per year. That's it. That's the number that exposes everything. It's too much cost. It's too much software. You could say too much theatre, although we're talking about broadcasting, but it's just not enough efficient exposure. And if you bolted 16 BDRs onto 2 field salespeople and call it a go-to-market team, your annual recurring revenue per FTE collapses. But if you replace that whole stack with a broadcast infrastructure that your 2 salespeople sit at the end of, annual recurring revenue full-time equivalent doesn't just improve, it absolutely transforms it. And kind of the final telling sign is the salespeople who keep their jobs, because we all know this. At the moment, the salespeople who keep their jobs are the ones who generate their own business and make their own appointments. It's never the ones that close the most marketing qualified leads. So you've got to think about what that says to you about the value of marketing qualified leads. It's really serious. I mean, so we could say, okay, so where does this leave everyone? My blunt kind of opinion, the only currency that genuinely lands within B2B is the ability to make an appointment. That's it. The entire marketing operation has to culminate in that single activity. No appointment, no sale. So all focus and effort's got to be generated towards or geared towards a prospect actively wanting to have a conversation with a salesperson. Nothing else matters. It's not the open rate, not the impression, not the dashboard, nothing. Just the appointment. That's it. And really to date, there's been no real change. I mean, tell me if there has, message me, put in the comment below, but no real change in how B2Bs actually get in front of prospects, because it's the only way you grow. So any change has got to be instigated by CEOs, because if what people are doing right now is doing the same old, it ain't going to change. So it's got to be the CEOs. No one else can do this, because the people who've been making the decisions about engagement and exposure have been relying on B2C statistics. And CEOs and CFOs and salespeople are kind of quietly agreeing, going, actually, yeah, you're right. Because there's just never enough business. So like I said at the beginning, your marketing team are doing it wrong. The trouble is, if they knew they were wrong, they would have told you, or your direction would have changed by now. But they don't know. And unfortunately, you don't know either, because you've got enough things to do as a CEO. So it's a bitter pill to swallow, really. And what I'm saying is that we've been misled for 20 years. And the only people this, I suppose, misleading advice has served is the MarTech industry. And so, to clarify, when I say wrong, I mean their approach. The way they maintain activity, the way they measure activity. And even if you look at it, how they set up outbound, hoping it'll trigger inbound. I mean, it couldn't be more wrong, and it's totally misplaced, because we've got so used to social media and asking, marketing asking their mates and their different contacts to share with to share their stuff. But how many businesses are combining email and banner advertising to drive traffic to a live show? Inviting prospects to watch online anonymously. No forced appointment, no webinar form. Just access. Because we absolutely know that's what buyers want. So your annual recurring revenue can only come from exposure. And that exposure has to come from multiplying what you already have. And that's where the Sales Exchange Operating System comes in. It's 6 modules, one infrastructure, designed for B2Bs from the ground up. If you're still here, the fact that you're still here, I know I've got you, because you want to find out about this. So the first, the structure that we've got is, it starts with SX Reach, and what it is, it's social, email, and banner. Always on. Multiple, or kind of not multiple, but multi-channel exposure. So you have hundreds of prepared assets. Okay. You may have seen these on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. Hundreds of prepared assets. All of it published on a schedule. The email reaching the same audience repeatedly so they learn over time. Banner advertising. I mean, we've got the, you're a bit difficult if you listen to this on a podcast, but basically what we've got there is these are multiple posts. They are constructed. And once they're constructed, you can, using a combination of AI and Python and so on, you can produce these at scale, which means, I mean, I'm not going to go into massive detail now, because next week I'm going to go through each module in detail. Suffice to say, nothing exists like this, because we're dealing with repetition and expansive visibility. We output 600 posts a month. It's 20 a day. Think about that. So the whole thing is that the banner advertising, it gets the right traffic to the website and to the live show. 3 channels, 1 orchestration, and it repeats, because it is all about orchestration. It repeats week in, week out. No shoulder tapping. Please share. And no like Monday morning panic about have you done today's post? So you've got these different things here. You've then got, because I'm going to flick through this. We've got multiple posts. We then have it pushed to email and then to banners. We're keeping similar illustrations. I've put my my slides in the wrong order. I'll come back to that. So now we're at live. So you've got this. I'm going to stop there because I just want to go back a second, because part and parcel of what we provide is this methodology of generating this information, and this is it now on screen. This screen is a processing screen. You upload your text. When the text is uploaded, it gets processed into those images I mentioned, and then you submit it and it gets posted online. 30 at a time. It took me 3 hours to do 6. It's 180 posts. 3 hours to post it, process it and post it. Amazing. Love it. Absolutely love it. But I'll come back to that for next week. So SX Live. So it basically is in-office broadcasting so you've probably got an office that's not used as much. Maybe it's got no windows. Great if it hasn't. Convert it into a studio. Think about it. So you convert it into a studio and becomes one live show every week. And from that 1 hour that you produce, you do that live show, you've got a YouTube video, 5 or 6 10-minute clips, 25 to 30 shorts podcast, 1 hour, and just hundreds of distributed assets. And you've got an office studio. And it costs pennies. I mean, you compare it to what, a marketing department, and it does what no marketing campaign can ever do. It puts the human, it puts the voice, the whole body language thing. You can stand there and wave your arms about and people go, he's lying or he's telling the truth, look at that. And you put something like this in front of your prospects, in front of your total addressable market every single week. And that is how people get to know, like, and trust you. Because the bottom line is, everything you do in an appointment can be done here. You have to think about that. The next part is called what we call SX Connect, and it's an independent discovery and appointment booking process. It uses an AI agents to research the company and the individual before the meeting. It's got automated preparation of the sales deck, tailored to that prospect. It automates the drafting of the proposal, so the buyer self-educates, remains anonymous until they're ready to book. And when they do book, your salespeople in person, they walk into that sales meeting already prepared with the deck and the proposal sitting there. No BDR, no qualification call, no discovery calendar invite. The buyer arrives ready, and so do you. And we do that different stages. We've got a form fill, discovery form fill. It's just a checklist. It's not complicated. It delivers a sequenced process. I'll show you that on a bigger screen. You've got a sequenced process there from the web to the form, books the time. Down the information across the bottom shows the processes that it goes through, delivered back to the salesperson in time for the meeting. That whole process gets done in, what was it? I think it was 6 minutes. So once that form has been completed, it takes 6 to 8 minutes for the email to arrive in the salesperson's inbox saying your meeting's booked on this date, and here's who they are, what they do, and here's your slide deck, and here's your proposal. And then that salesperson edits the proposal when need be, and sends it to the prospect when that meeting's finished. Can you see my excitement? Can you see my enthusiasm on this? I hope so, because it gives you cradle to grave reporting. One screen shows the lots: impressions, reactions, engagement, to the completed forms, completed proposals, to meetings attended, and final proposals sent. And finally, it goes into pipeline. So every UTM, every asset, prospect journey, everything end to end. So when the board asks, what's marketing actually doing? You don't show them any activity. You show them attribution from first touch to closed annual recurring revenue. And that's the difference between dashboards and decisions. And this is the best slide of them all, I think. I love this slide. Or this screen, should I say. It tells you how many appointments. And once that sales guy, saleswoman, person confirms what the final cost was, sale cost, what's the cost that was put on that proposal, it appears top right. Aggregated. So like I said, it's cradle to grave. Total cradle to grave reporting. It is what it is. It's something that the businesses have wanted for decades, and now we've got it. The next thing is the hub. The hub is integrated. It's using Notion and Claude GPT. It's an integrated LLM hub with training built in. So it's your team's internal knowledge, your processes, your scripts, your assets, everything sitting behind one AI kind of native interface. So you speed up onboarding, speed up sales conversations. You've got constant consistency, proper consistency. And customer success has got the same answers as sales. Everything works the way it should. So the whole company speaks the same language because all the language lives in one place. And we've all done it. Everyone's done it, yeah? You go onto GPT and go, what's the answer to this? What's the answer to that? But this is all to do with your business. And because now, as you may well be aware, you can get Notion, you can get Claude and GPT to connect to 365 and Notion. You can get it to cross-populate. You can get it to maintain that consistency, which is what every business wants. We've heard it before. Such and such hasn't not been updated or whatever. You have an LLM to monitor and keep agents. Agents can keep managing and keeping anything and everything up to date. Spectacular. I know it's spectacular. I've been doing this for 40 years and I'm blown away by this. And it couldn't, whilst we're not reliant on AI, we use it. And I've heard lots of things being said just recently about it's not the AI. What's the application? What solution is it solving? Not the fact that it's called AI. And this is a solution that is giving you this expansive exposure to a total addressable market that enables you to communicate and orchestrate to that massive market and kind of reap the benefits, the rewards of the people that are interested engaging with you because you're always there, you're always on, you're always available. You think, well, there's so much to take on board. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree. Which is why we've got a course. Start with the course. And what we've got with the course is 30 hours of online video. Yeah, 20 modules, but I think it's about 189 short videos, 80 odd worksheets and downloads, CPD certified, so it's all self-paced. And this is how you transform the thinking of current B2B marketers I mean, at the end of the day, if you install the OS without retraining people, you just buy more software. There's no point. But it's the course comes first, then the infrastructure follows after that. So CEOs, VPs of sales, and if you've got an open-minded CMO, yeah, great. But once everybody understands what's gone wrong, this operating system it's not a leap of faith anymore. It's the obvious next step, and that's why we've got it. That's why it's been done. So you kind of bring this all together. You know that the real problem in B2B is not a lack of mechanisms or technology to achieve large-scale exposure. The technology is always there. It's been there for years. But the real problem is the willingness of marketing people to adopt the technologies that would actually deliver large-scale exposure. Mechanisms exist, it's just not being used. And you could quite easily say in certain cases marketing's been actively dissuaded from engaging with this type of tech. By whom? You guessed it. By the MarTech companies, MarTech SaaS salespeople. Because their entire model depends on you not knowing that there's another way. Depends how you want to look at life in a way, is half full or half empty, but the bottom line is what's their end game? But the problem is real. We know it's real, and it sits squarely, unfortunately, squarely on the shoulders of salespeople and the CEOs who are expected to deliver the figures when no one else can. Marketing don't sell. And that's basically the show in one paragraph. You know, you should be able to see it without me pointing at it, but annual recurring revenue is annual. Your activities daily. The two've never matched, ever. Your buyer behaves a bit like someone shopping for a car. Yeah, they look, they think, test drive, they go away, they come back. You can't compress them, but you can teach them. And I would say that's the only lever you've got. Because, social media and consumer type campaigns weren't built for you. Yeah, repetition for B2B isn't virality, it's learning. And you've got to let your market see you and hear you and learn from you every single week on a cycle or a sequence that they're going to recognise. Yeah, so the sales numbers that matter aren't marketing qualified leads or form fills. They're exposure, reaction, engagement, downloads, visits, conversations, and finally, the appointment. In that order. Track it. That's what you need. And you know exactly what's happening instead of what your dashboard wishes were happening. And the annual recurring revenue per full-time equivalent, the number we put in front of this show, is the only metric that exposes the truth. 80, 90 grand a head. In pretty much every UK SaaS context, it tells you that the model's broken. So you can replace a BDR army and the MarTech sprawl, the whole thing, with a broadcast selling infrastructure. And that number it doesn't tick up, it transforms. Absolutely transforms. And that's what the operating system is for Reach, Live, Hub, Connect, Ops, and the course, and so on. So one installed infrastructure does the work of an entire fragmented stack. And it's not, don't get it wrong, it's not a mishmash of bolted together AI. Yeah? It does it on a continuous rhythm or process or motion that the buyer recognises. And we built it because it needed to be built. And the fact that nobody else has, I mean, we've been running this ourselves for months. And the proof is the numbers we keep showing you. Hundreds of downloads, no paid media, 30,000 views a month off the back of weekly 1 hour in front of the camera. It's not a campaign. It's an operating system. A B2B operating system. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet. I love it. So what do you think? I think, personally, I say you've got two choices. And they're pretty stark. Probably more stark than they've ever been. Choice number one. You stay where you are. You keep the marketing leader. Keep the marketing team you've got. And just do another year, same campaigns, same cycle, all measured the same way. And you hope, because that is the only word for it, you hope this year will be different. It won't be. But we both know it won't be any different. If you do what you've always done, you get what you've always got. Choice two, just do the course. 1 or 2 people do the course first. Then retrain your entire go-to-market team. So they can see what you're starting to see. That's what this is all about. You know, if you look at this, you look at what we've got here. We've got the structure there for the course. It's certificated once people complete it. We've got all the forms and downloads. And like I said, when they do get the certificate, great. But you haven't had to manage anybody through that process, no micromanaging whatsoever. So you can, it doesn't matter how many people you've got in your go-to-market team, in marketing, sales, customer success, it's irrelevant. It's not important. But you can get them all trained at the same time, so they're all singing from the same hymn sheet. And once you've got all that thinking in one place, do the infrastructure. That's what follows. So the operating system itself doesn't become some leap of faith. It's just obvious next step. So I hope, coming to the end now, as you move forward, don't just think about another platform. Don't start with another agency promising better lead gen or whatever. Yeah, don't just think, oh, okay, we'll chuck another form up here. We do a pay-per-click to a landing page form. We'll kick off with that strategy. Begin with understanding and take your time. Go to our website. There's loads of stuff on it. Look at the CEO section. Look at the audit section. Look at that data fill form, because you can see everything that we've got on there before you do anything in the booking page. Read the open access PDFs. You'll see it from the mega menu that drops down. You'll see it. Watch the previous shows. There's no gating, no nothing. We don't cold call, we never will. We only broadcast. And when, this is the important bit, when and if you're ready, so are we. And that's it from me for this week. Annual recurring revenue is the only metric that matters, because it's the only one that tells you whether your entire system is working or whether you're just paying people and platforms to look busy. So, I mean, really, have a look at your numbers. Compare them to ours. All the information's on there. And ask yourself whether the team you've got on the sequencing or cadence, I never like that, on the cadence they're running, can ever move the figure to where you need it. Really important. So, thanks for watching. I hope this one's sown a few seeds. I'll see you next Thursday, same time, same place. Have a great week. That's it from me. Bye for now.
If this changed how you think about GTM, you're just getting started. Explore the full Revenue Reset series and join us live next week.